Next week, Penelope Keith returns to her more familiar hyphenated role of Audrey Forbes Hamilton, To the Manor Born, as we begin a repeat showing of that series at 9 o'clock next Monday.
Comedy tomorrow on BBC2 with a new series of lame ducks in a new location.
I suppose there's one thing that's always been reasonably safe for you.
What's that?
A decent sex life. Right, Mr. Ansell?
Huh?
If anyone wants me, I'll be out working on my herb garden.
Angie?
Yes?
I suppose it wouldn't take very long to get this place shipshape, would it?
Don't you mean train shape?
Just need some wood, that's all. And I'll get it running again. Why? What do you mean, why?
Well, why do you need to do all this?
So as we can have a train, that's why.
A new series of lame ducks starts tomorrow at 9 o'clock on BBC2.
Now, on to Newsnight.
Good evening. And tonight, another group of Soviets pack their bags as they're told they're no longer welcome in Britain. This evening, the Foreign Office summoned the Soviet chargé d'affaires and told him 6 more Soviets were being sent home as spies in the tit-for-tat expulsions row sparked off by the defection of KGB head Oleg Gordievsky. Moscow has called the British action provocative and vindictive. But the Foreign Secretary said tonight his decision wasn't based on pique, but on a rational defence of Britain's national interests. So did Britain misjudge the Kremlin's hardline response? And will this escalating row destroy the recent progress in Anglo-Soviet relations? We'll be discussing those issues with former British ambassador to Moscow, Sir Curtis Keeble, and with Sovietologist Peter Frank.
And here in Dundee, the Liberals are gathering for their contribution to the Alliance's Conference Double Act. The Liberal leadership believes that Act 1, the SDP's conference last week, was so successful that they can now happily parade a picture of the 2 leaders smiling out at the Liberal Assembly as it begins tomorrow. But can the Liberals this week keep up the momentum set by the SDP? Or will their differences on policy and the doubts that many of them have about Dr. Owen set the Alliance's bandwagon into reverse? Well, I'll be exploring some of the worries with William Wallace, who's already rocked the Alliance with his memo saying the Liberal Party has never begun to prepare for government, and with David Penhaligon, the party's president-elect.
A £222 million a year rise for local government manual workers. Their latest offer's worth 12%, and it's way over the government's targets. 10 of the Chinese Politburo resign, hundreds of others go too. It's the old guard who've got the chop. Dung's reformist policies now look secure. The arts in Britain, anything but secure, say the experts. But why not get off your backs and invest in them, says the Arts Council. Joan Bakewell has an exclusive preview of how they're going to sell the government and everyone else the line that the arts are a great British success.
Well, we'll be looking at the upping of bids in the spy story in detail later in the programme, but first to one of tomorrow's major political events, the first day of the Liberal Party conference. After the success of last week's SDP conference in Torquay, the onus is now on the Liberals to keep up the momentum set by their alliance partners. Liberal Party delegates have been gathering for their assembly, which opens formally tomorrow in Scotland. For an eve of conference report, here's Peter Snow in Dundee.
The Liberal Assembly proper begins tomorrow, and debates will go on till Saturday. But already today, they're into that peculiarly Liberal preoccupation, holding informal commissions or seminars on issues to be debated in the Assembly later in the week. Today, it was justice and security and what they call regeneration of the economy. The Liberal Party has its policy problems, its rowdy radicals, and its embarrassingly leaked secrets. But at their launching press conference this evening, their leadership made light of that and looked to more convincing evidence that the party was doing well.
The divergences in the opinion polls of the last few days are fascinating, but they all point to this marvellous possibility. That a Liberal Party and an SDP, which an alliance can get consistently an average of around 30% of the polls, is actually poised with the possibility of coming out on top in a general election.
Certainly the most recent polls do suggest that things are going the alliance's way. Today's Murray poll in the London Standard puts Labour in front with 37%, but the alliance sharing second place with the Conservatives on 31%, confirming a whole flood of recent polls suggesting that all three parties are in with a broadly equal chance. But what's significant is the alliance's steady climb, and people's perception of it as a force that could change the face of British politics at the next election. In the latest Gallup poll, more than half the people questioned reckoned that the alliance would hold the balance of power. And significantly, whereas a year ago in people's rating of party policies, the alliance on 17% trailed way behind the Conservatives and Labour, today they're level pegging with the Conservatives on 25% in second place. And Gallup also suggests that Labour no longer looks to most people like the only party that can throw out the present government. Now add to this the transformation that the alliance has brought to local government. At county level, they have majority control of one council, the Isle of Wight, and they have the whip hand in another 6, where they have all the committee chairmanships. And in a further 19, they have, at least in numerical terms, the balance of power. That makes the alliance a major influence in more than half the county councils in England and Wales. That's what the alliance has got going for it. But the partnership does have its tensions. A lot of Liberals are concerned at the thrust of Dr. Owen's leadership of the SDP and at some of the SDP's policies, to take two in particular. First, on defence. Although both parties are agreed on ditching the Trident system, the SDP is now broadly committed to a Britain that retains nuclear weapons. Liberal policy, as expressed by the Assembly last year, is for an ultimately non-nuclear Britain. Second, Northern Ireland. Liberal policy, as expressed by their Assembly 2 years ago, is to accept the principle of a united Ireland as a long-term objective. The SDP voted last week only to recognise an Irish dimension by creating an Anglo-Irish Parliamentary Council. The SDP were in fact endorsing this document, the report of a joint Liberal-SDP Commission, and the Liberal leadership is hoping to unite the party behind this rather different policy this week. That Northern Ireland debate is tucked away at the end of the week, and there's no debate on the difficult issue of nuclear weapons. The only defence issue the Liberals are to debate is Star Wars tomorrow, and they'll have no trouble agreeing to condemn that. But in a word, what is going to make or break this Liberal Assembly is the degree to which those who dislike the SDP, its policies and its leadership, choose to play up these differences on and off the conference floor here. Now, normally one could rely on them doing just that. But have the new realities penetrated this far north? There is, for example, one serious and crucial political battle to be fought right here in Dundee. Here's Vincent Hanna.
I'm here, Shirley Williams, Wednesday, Ancram School.
On this man's shoulders rests the heaviest political burden in Dundee. John Best has to mastermind the alliance campaign in that vital, imminent by-election in Ancram ward of the local district council. Normally, a Tory safe seat, the SDP are hoping that they might cash in on the national opinion polls. They're trying to get people to come to a meeting about it. Dundee town is Labour-dominated in a region that is Tory-controlled. But just across the Tay Bridge, with its numerous arches and pillars in so grand array, beloved of the poet McGonagall, in north-east Fife, the Liberals run the local council. And the Alliance now see this part of Scotland as presenting a great political opportunity, if they work hard enough.
Well, this is a crucial affair for us, this imminent by-election, and we need all the help we can to win it. It's got to be a great alliance effort. In fact, we understand that there's a lot of Liberals coming in today to help us with it.
So, greeted by a half-frozen pipe band, 300 Liberals poured off Saturday's special train from King's Cross, determined to impose their presence on Dundee one way or another. Alan Watson quoted Winston Churchill to a bemused-looking Lord Provost, and the odd local enthusiast. It is, on the whole, best to draw a veil over the details of that train trip. partly because of the overindulgence of some of the delegates, and partly because we only got on at Edinburgh. The young Liberals on board displayed their usual diplomacy and generosity about young Social Democrats.
I think they must be the only youth wing of a political party that's actually to the right of their own parent party, and to the right of Dr. David Owen is pretty incredible, I think.
The young Social Democrats are very nice, but not a great deal more. Young people's answer to the Women's Institute, personally.
1,300 delegates have checked in at Dundee for the Liberal Assembly and face an unusual challenge. Will the week be the cheerful, chaotic, loquacious gathering that we all know? Or could it be that the faint whiff of power will temper the factionalism? This is the special conference set, erected by this, the anti-personality party. Well, within an hour of spotting David Owen's smiling face, there were 2 petitions and 1 emergency motion to have it removed. And some Liberals were wandering about looking for cans of spray paint. Others were wandering over to the office of the French consul to protest about the sinking of the Rainbow Warrior. Des Wilson and David Alton handed in letters. A young Liberal courteously explained it all in French. If the French consul appears a bit puzzled by this, it's because he's a Dundee solicitor and doesn't speak a word of French. Meanwhile, all over Dundee, paper was being recycled. The Association of Liberal Councillors, now 2,300 strong, were planning meetings and distributing their many tracts. It's hard to be a Liberal councillor and dyslexic. On Sunday, we met about 30 battle-hardened troops of the new Liberal revival for a group discussion. First, they explained what they meant by politics and why they had joined the Liberal Party.
Power.
Activity.
Opportunity.
Well, I joined the Liberal Party when I was 22 because I had been meaning to do so since I was 8. But it took me that long to find out how.
Yes, I joined the Liberal Party in 1979. Actually, Cyril Smith got me into a corner and I couldn't get out. But,
Why do they think Liberals look and sound different from Social Democrats?
I think to some extent it's because the Social Democrats are still trying very hard to form their identity, and because we have a tradition behind us, we can be a lot more comfortable with what we know we are.
The thing is, we don't believe in rigid distinctions between bunches of people in society. We think you're all a person, everybody is a person, and by labelling yourself with your clothes, you'd be trying to say something that's fundamentally alien to liberalism, which is that we don't think with our class, we don't think by our socio-economic background, we're just individuals with our own ideas, and everybody else is too.
I used to wear glasses, but I am now wearing contact lenses. I shaved my beard off 6 months ago just because I was curious after 12 years to see what I looked like. I found I looked like my mother, and I'm going back to decent obscurity.
Are differences between the alliance partners philosophical, then?
I understand for myself what liberal philosophy is all about. I'm not so sure I understand what social democracy philosophy is about, and so I see the alliance as secondary.
I think if you'd asked me this a couple of years ago, I'd have said that we're poles apart and that there was no chance of me ever thinking of being anywhere close to the Social Democrats. Over the last couple of years, there's been a movement by them towards us. I mean, I wouldn't have thought their way of campaigning, they had no idea of community campaigning or doing anything. And we've taught them a lot. And in response to that, they've moved towards us. And although I still feel that I'm a Liberal and don't feel I would change, I think that they're so much closer that I don't object to being thought of in the same wagon anymore, in the same alliance.
But Liberal attitudes have most greatly been affected by their recent experiences in local government.
In Aberdeen, for instance, where the Alliance is now the opposition to Labour and the Conservatives for the first time are very much a third party, the leader of the Conservative group regularly says in debates, we don't like you pointing to the Labour group, but we dislike them even more pointing to the Liberals.
The classic, which is close to me in the North East, is Northumberland County Council, which at the moment the Liberals should perhaps be running it, but the Conservatives have kept the Labour Party in power, and that's how they like it.
I'm sure it must be unacceptable to most Liberals to envisage a pact with Mrs. Thatcher as leader of the Tory party. So that is unacceptable. I cannot really imagine that we can do much of a deal with a lightweight like Neil Kinnock as the leader of the Labour Party. But the facts of the matter are we've got to do a deal with someone.
Vincent Hanna there with Liberals who, at local level at least, sound confident and professional. But this growing impression of political maturity at local level contrasts sharply with one leading Liberals' view of the party's image at national level. 10 days ago, a secret, and as things turned out, deeply embarrassing party memo was leaked, and it tells a very different story. The author, who was one of David Steele's own advisers, William Wallace, had marked it most confidential. Mr. Wallace said the Liberal Party has repeatedly talked about preparing for government, but it's never actually begun to do so. And he listed a number of disadvantages the party had compared with other parties. Our staff resources are minute, he said.